In this video, I'm going to be talking about source code, source files, and modules. So these are words you're going to hear frequently as a software engineer or a developer. So you need to understand what each of them is. Okay. So what exactly is source code? Source code simply means the lines of code, okay, or the instructions that make a computer program. So if in a computer program, all the lines of code that you have in a computer program, that is what you call source code. Okay, so when people are talking about source code, they mean the actual instructions that make up a computer program. Okay. So source code sometimes is code, you hear people say code, sometimes it will be termed as code snippets, sometimes it will be called as commands, instructions. So people use different ways, but they mean the same thing. Just simply lines of code that you write into a computer program. Okay, that's what source code is. So let's move on to source files. What are source files? Source files are just simply files in which source code is written. So if you write Java code will be written in a source file. There will be a file that specifically keeps that code. Okay, so that file that keeps the code that you have written, that is what you call a source file. So what is a module? A module is also simply a file in which source code is written. But mostly with a module, it works in such a way that the code written in one module performs a certain functionality or implements a certain feature in a software program. Okay, so think of let's say VLSO Media Player. So there could be a module that controls all the buttons, the play, the pause, the stop. They could just all the lines of code that do that functionality to be in one file called buttons. Okay, that would be what a module is. But with a source file doesn't need to implement any feature. You can just have two lines, okay, in a file. That is what a source file is. Okay, so what I've opened is VS Code. So I'll try to explain the concept of source code and source files. So in this document we have in this source file. So this file here, index.php, okay, index.php, this file here, the index.php, this file, index.php, this is a source file. So index.php is a source file, okay, a source file. Then this line here, to require, name, these are source codes, or this is code. These are lines of code. So a group of lines of code, that is what you call source code, right? Then the file in which these lines of code, you're going to call them what? A source file. Then when this source file implements a certain feature, let's say you had 3,000 lines of code going down this one, they're implementing a certain feature in a computer program. This file graduates from being called a source file. It is now a module because it implements certain functionality. Okay. So in summary, we're talking about source code, source files, and modules. We're talking about code and the files in which the code is stored. Okay. So that marks the end of the lesson on source code, source files, and modules.